Welcome back to your Valley Sports Plug. It's the Heat Check Podcast live Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. I'm Chris Patrick, joined by my co-hosts, Mr. Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman. How are you fellas doing this evening?
Chris, Tallman, this is always a tough day in the United States of America, but I will say me and Tallman were out at the ballpark, man, and it was a beautiful, beautiful day to be a Diamondbacks fan. But I'm doing great, man. I'm ready to rock. But Tallman, how you doing tonight?
Guys, doing good. As Mike mentioned, we had a great moment of silence at Chase Field for what today means to everybody in America. But on a brighter side, week 1 victory in fantasy over Michael Benjamin. Oh, baby. And it wasn't even close. So we came into the week a little happy, but feeling good, guys.
Oh, talk about fantasy. I'm a little nervous, but I did go 2 for 2. I'm in 4 leagues this year, which I never said would happen, but 500, I'll take it.
Well, there you go. Well, Tallman might have beaten Michael Benjamin, but
I don't
beat Tallman thanks to one, was it Jake Moody?
Dude, he is a monster.
Incredible. 26 points from a kicker in fantasy football is unreal. I literally texted Tallman. I was like, I'm going to need a Chris Boswell performance for him.
And you got it.
For me to be able, and I got it. Yeah. He got exactly the same amount of points.
I was leading by like 5 points. I had Debo going, and then you had the kicker going, and you beat me by 4. This just makes no sense.
Hey, them's the breaks, my friend. But you guys kind of said it there. September 11th, the anniversary is always a difficult day, as we all said we would never forget. Anybody, especially who was alive back then and remembers that day, will never forget. Absolutely terrible time. I was very young. We were all very young. I think Mike had just turned 11 or something like that. I was 7, almost 8 years old. Same with Tallman. But even at that young age, the way the adults reacted, the way the world stood still. This is the 23rd anniversary, guys. And to kind of tie, we're going to talk sports, guys. Don't get me wrong. We're going to talk sports. But we do remember that this was kind of the moment of time in this country where the world, even the whole world, stood still. These events pushed back the end of the MLB regular season from September 30th to October 7th. And because of the attacks, the World Series wasn't completed until November 4th. The 2001 World Series was the first World Series to end in November, and it ended with the Arizona Dbacks getting their very first championship ring. I was just telling these guys, I learned today that on the inside of their World Series ring, they have etched "Never Forget" in there. So I was kind of scouring. Obviously, I personally like to kind of go through and watch videos on September 11th to remember stories of the heroism or the heroics of that day, all the firefighters and police who laid their lives on the line, countless stories of people running back into the burning building to save people, make sure they got out safely. And I saw this video from Fox Sports today. It's narrated by Billy Crystal, and I just wanted to share it with you all as we remember September 11th, 2001.
A piece of cloth, battered, tattered, torn, and worn. A piece of cloth is powerful when it is a symbol of a nation, of a cause, of a wounded soul. New York City, Washington, D.C., Shanksville, Pennsylvania, almost 3,000 dead. In its wake, we bore the burdens of grief and fear. How do you go on? Baseball. Baseball did not heal. It did not fill the empty chairs at so many dinner tables. It did not bring back the more than 400 first responders who ran toward danger. But it did give us some comfort, some hope. The ballpark was our gathering place, the first place we assembled in a post-9/11 world to feel safe, to honor those lost, to thank our first responders, to cry, and yes, to smile again. The solace of normalcy, the power of routine in a world gone mad. With the rubble at Ground Zero still smoldering, the President of the United States marched to the peak of the pitcher's mound. I was there that night. And when he threw that strike, that moment breathed life into our slow recovery. So did the ballpark. As one sign in the stands that night put it, USA fears nobody. Play ball. So atop Yankee Stadium, above center field, a raggedy American flag billowed in the autumn air. It was believed to have flown on one of the upper floors of the Twin Towers, but it was more than a flag. That piece of cloth, it was us. We were torn. We were frayed. We were hurting. And yet we were still standing strong and proud. Proud to have this little diversion we hold so dear called baseball. Damn proud to come together as one and to follow this beautiful shaft of light.
And the video does kind of cut off awkwardly there, but thank you guys for joining us and watching that. Obviously, things were never the same after that, and we'll never be the same again, but we've moved forward. Of course, we're 23 years down the road now, and we all know kind of the state of America, but I still have a lot of patriotism, still love this country, and I'm damn proud to call myself an American. But guys, enough of that. Let's switch to some lighter topics. Let's talk about some sports. Why don't we do that? We're going to talk about the Diamondbacks push for the playoffs. They swept the Rangers today. These two guys were in attendance as I was slaving away in an office all day. We're going to check in with the Arizona Cardinals, who started their season this last Sunday in Buffalo against the Bills. Took a loss, some things to criticize. Make sure you go check out the recap me and Michael Benjamin did. We're going to do weekly recaps of the Arizona Cardinals during this season so you can stay up to date. You can do that by liking and subscribing right here on YouTube. Make sure you're following us at AZ_VSP on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, anywhere that you can follow us. It's probably going to be at AZ_VSP. If you're really not sure, just go to Google, type in Valley Sports Plug. You'll find all the links. And then lastly, we will talk about ASU football off to a 2-0 start. They're going to play a Thursday game in Texas against Texas State tomorrow. Cam Scattaboo winning AP Player of the Week honors for his performance last week. So, and also, I guess whatever else comes up throughout the conversation. But fellas, why don't we get right into it? We're going to start with the Arizona Diamondbacks. You guys with the firsthand experience, that game today final score was what, 13-4?
14-4 was capped off. Geno Suarez had 2 home runs. Man, what a hell of a game. There was a scare today, though, with Merrill Kelly. He basically pulled himself early with some hamstring tightness, but it sounds like he's going to be okay. But, Chris, don't want to jump the gun. I'll pass it back over to you.
Wasn't ready to be passed back yet. That's fine, though. As you can kind of see here from the beautiful graphic Michael put together for us, had a 3-game skid there, kind of going on. And I think a lot of people were really nervous, especially the way we performed against Houston early on. So you can see there, 19-5 score differential in the first 2 games of that series. Luckily, they were able to come out strong on Sunday, got that win 12-6, which I think helped with the momentum coming back home, taking the Rangers. The next series will be against the Milwaukee Brewers, another tough opponent. They are first in their division. Overall, I think I'm seeing more green here than red, but more red than we would like as far as the wins and losses, especially the teams we want to beat. We wanted to beat the Mets, lost 2 there. We wanted to beat the Dodgers, lost 3 there. Great. We won the series against San Francisco, dropped 2 to Houston. So kind of back and forth. The weather's cooling down here in Arizona, but I hope that the D-backs aren't cooling off. I hope they're starting to heat up as they don't have too many more games left, guys. We're in the home stretch now. But Tallman, what'd you see today at the game besides, a lot of home runs?
Oh, baby. I saw MVP Ketel Marte. We saw him come back to form. I mean, we saw him struggling at the plate. I think he played today's first defensive reps at second base in a live game. But, I mean, he was struggling trying to get a hit. And he started off the game with the double. He ended up getting a home run, and then he had a single. So he had a great game offensively, which was awesome to see because we just saw yesterday with Christian Walker where he came back too. I mean, these guys have been out of baseball. Well, Walker was out for over a month. Ketel missed 3 weeks. So these guys got to get their timing back. So we saw Walker struggle too, where he was late. Even when he hit those 2 home runs yesterday, he hit them to the opposite field, which means he might have been a little late on some of those pitches there. But either way, it was good to see Walker get the bat on some balls and hit him over the fence. And it was incredible to see Ketel just look like MVP caliber Ketel that we've been so used to this entire season. So let's hope that he picks up right there and runs with it because we're going to need Ketel. We're going to need that bat. We're going to need just him, who he was the entire season that we were just so used to, so spoiled with, and he's going to help us big time in this run into October.
Without a doubt, I love that Ketel Marte is finally seemingly starting to figure it out again. As you mentioned, 3 of 4 today, 2 runs, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, back in MVP form. Unfortunately, guys, I really do think at this point, with the amount of time he missed, that they're going to give it to Shohei Ohtani. They might have done it regardless.
He's got no chance.
he's heading towards 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases. Literally every time he gets a homer or every time he gets a stolen base, MLB is putting up a post, ESPN's putting up a post. You literally can't open a social media page without seeing Shohei Ohtani. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, from a business standpoint, if you want to buy that these things are like fixed or narrative written, it's great marketing. You know, Ohtani is a global talent that draws a lot of eyeballs. The Angels brought in a lot of money from Japan. The Dodgers are bringing in a lot of money from Japan, as well as the MLB in total. I think it was might have been yesterday when they were playing the Cubs, the Dodgers were, that there was 4 Japanese starters on the field. And I think it was the first time in MLB history that had happened. Obviously, Japan brings in a lot of good talent now more than ever. They just won the World Baseball Classic. But we're here to talk about our boys, and Ketel Marte getting right, Christian Walker getting right. He was 1 for 4 today, but did pick up an RBI. He got in on the fun. But those 2 home runs were huge, man. I mean, we even saw a performance, not just Christian Walker, like a lot of guys hit home runs in this one. It was Ketel. Grichuk got his 200th career home run. Suarez had a multiple home run game. I'm pretty sure he's done that a handful of times this season. Also, was it last week we saw Pavin Smith slap 3 home runs? That was just over this last weekend, wasn't it?
On Sunday, yeah. Thank God he did that. We needed that win, that last game in Houston, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, that was clutch. He's good for 1 good game every month, I think. So that came at the right time when we needed it most to get past Houston. But guys, I kind of mentioned it. Coming up here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a total of 7 games against the Brewers. It's going to be 3 this weekend. Then we'll go to Colorado, play 3 with them before heading to Milwaukee for a 4-game series. Mike, just how big are these 2 series with the Milwaukee Brewers going to be for the D-backs?
It's going to be huge, guys. This is basically the tail of the tape if you want to talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks actually making the postseason. If you look at the standings right now, we are at the top, but we have the same record as the Padres, and they're actually losing 3-0 in the top of the 6th, so we'll take it. But the New York Mets are just nipping at the heels of this Arizona Diamondbacks club. I mean, me and Tallman were looking at it today. They were no hit into the 9th, and then they scratch out 6 runs and win. Like, they've put it together and are looking to possibly catapult over the Padres and the Diamondbacks. But fellas, I got to go back a little bit, right? If we look at the previous 3 weeks, the last time we had a stream and talked about the Arizona Diamondbacks, I kind of feel a little bit like a soothsayer. Like, I got in touch with what this team was going to do over the next following weeks. And I said, the way that this team had been playing, just absolutely just heat streaking baseball, it was going to come to an end. And it wasn't a screeching halt, but I said, get ready for some of these series losses. And it started with the New York Mets, right? We were hopeful that we were going to be able to claw and get a 2-2 series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and we had opportunities in those first 2 games, and unfortunately we floundered it, so we lost that series. And then I did say we always loved losing to Houston for some reason. And what happened? We lost those first 2 games, but Tallman alluded to it, man. That 3rd game, that nice 12-6 victory was huge. And it seemed they were able to get a little bit momentum coming off of a series win in San Francisco. Yes, they did drop against Houston, but 2 huge wins against the Texas Rangers team who is not going to make the playoffs. Zach Gallen had an absolutely stellar showing yesterday. Didn't make it through 6 innings, but only 2 hit ball. And the Diamondbacks, man, you talk about this team as a whole offensively. There were times where we were wondering if they were going to be able to really hold up their end of the bargain. They're the first team in baseball to get to 800 runs, right, for the season. And I think the closest team behind them is the New York Yankees, which is 70 runs behind. Like, this team is hitting the baseball incredibly well. They tied a franchise record today with most extra base hits. Gino Suarez gave me a nice little boost for my fantasy baseball finals today as well with 2 home runs. I think we're at a good pace, but to bring it back to your question, Christopher, these 2 series against the Milwaukee Brewers, I think, are the make or break for this Arizona Diamondbacks club.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the Brewers, especially on the road, is going to be huge. And if you look back at last season, we lost 6 of our last 10. So the fact that they're a little cold right now, as long as they make the postseason, I'm not super worried about it. We got Lawrence here with the live update. Ohtani is now 47-47. He's saying it's going to be Ohtani to win the MVP.
50-50 club,
Hard
man.
to
That is
disagree.
insane.
I just got the ESPN update.
I
That
said
is
40.
insane.
I said 40-40. It was 50-50. That's
50-50, yeah.
insane. Yeah, it looks like the Dodgers just had a 4 home run first inning. Ohtani got another one. Not shocked. I'm not shocked at all. It's going to be Ohtani, and that's fine. I mean, it's historic. A DH winning the MVP award. It's never been done before, right, Tallman?
Yeah, that's correct. But I mean, just what he's doing as a DH is, like we've just said, it's never been done before. So he's going to win it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I mean, when they were playing the Diamondbacks, I mean, that dude, you always forget how fast he is. I mean, he's a big guy, and that dude's just stealing bases left and right. I mean, he's talented, that's for sure. But him winning the MVP without even picking up a glove the entire year is crazy. But I mean, he's doing something that no one's ever done before. So I would say it's warranted, I guess. But as much as I don't like it.
He's fun to watch. I mean, he puts asses in the seats, that's for sure. I mean, not that Dodgers ever have a tough time filling that stadium with the teams they put together, but even when they go on the road, maybe it's a uniquely Arizona thing, but I'd imagine throughout the country, other teams have the same problem as we do here, where they find a lot of Dodgers in their seats rooting on their team, whether you want to call it bandwagon or not. I suppose that's neither here or there. Yeah. Ohtani is just absolutely crazy. But back to the Diamondbacks. I mean, I think for me, when we look at because we got Milwaukee, Colorado, Milwaukee, San Francisco, and then San Diego. Those last 2 series against San Fran and San Diego will be at home. So I think that's good news. Those will be against some tough teams. I think the Giants, did I call them the 49ers? The Giants are probably not going to make the playoffs, but the Padres are right there at the top of the wild card standings with us. I'd love to see them win that series. You absolutely can't get swept by the Padres. But for me, you have to go and win all 3 games against the Colorado Rockies. They got some talent. They've won some games they shouldn't have. But for me, those are the games that I think are the most crucial. You want to go at least an even 50, or I guess you should win at least 4 of the 7 against Milwaukee. If we're being honest, Milwaukee is getting absolutely spanked right now by the Giants. So I guess that could be a good sign and a bad sign. But like I mentioned, they have a better record than us, and they're at the top of their division. So not to say we're going to play spoiler. I don't think they have anyone that's really going to sniff them and take their spot. But that could honestly, bode well in our favor. Yeah, the Cubs are 8.5 games back. So the Brewers might kind of take it easy as they kind of gear up for the postseason. But also, I think they want to secure their spot as well. Guys, I don't know. Are you, with the way this team is performing now, are you confident that in the next couple of weeks here that they'll be able to get into playoff form to be able to compete in a wild card game that's only 3 games?
Yeah, I feel very confident. If you would have asked me that Saturday night going into Sunday, I might have would have had a different viewpoint on it. Because I mean, let's be honest, Mike, you nailed it when you said we can't win every single game, right? This hot streak's going to come to an end. I mean, we had that 10-game span where we went 3-7, and it was like, at one point, it felt like we were never going to lose. And then at another point, it's like, okay, are we ever going to score enough runs to win again? And then you had the question of, all right, so we have all of our pitchers healthy, our starting rotation. Can we go one time through the rotation where everybody has a decent or good performance? We haven't been able to do that yet, right? It's just been up and down, bipolar. We're either scoring a bunch of runs and pitching horrible, or we're pitching great and we can't score a damn run. But what changed everything for me, honestly, was Sunday was great, right? We don't win that last game against Houston without Pavin Smith. He has a career game. He has 3 home runs. He has 8 RBIs. There's no way we win that game without him, right? Every lead we got, the Astros were answering back and scoring and scoring. Granted, we won 12-6, but we don't win without him. But this Texas series, college series, 2-game series, whatever, I mean, it was like all right, let's get right. You know, we saw Gallen come out. He pitched great, right? Was he struggled with the pitch count. He found himself in a ton of 3-2 counts, full counts. He was throwing a lot of pitches, but he was doing great. He looked like the Zach Gallen that we're used to. And then the big thing I put together with that is that's 2 quality starts in a row for Zach Gallen. And then also our offense was there. You know, we scored enough runs to win. We won 6-0. Then today we saw Merrill Kelly. He pitched a very good game to start until he went out with the cramping. And then another thing I get away from the Kelly is that's 2 quality starts in a row for Kelly. So if you right now as a D-backs fan, you're crossing your fingers. You're hoping that these guys figured it out. They're ready to go, and they're back to who we've known them to be and who we saw through the last season and postseason and glimpses this year. But I mean, it's that question about can we have one time through that rotation where we're all consistent on all of our starting pitchers? Because I mean, that 3-7 over 10 game skid that we went through, I mean, it was just inconsistent starting pitching. Where, you know, is it's sad to say is the 2 guys that have struggled the most in our starting rotation. Obviously, one of them we took care of. You know, he's in the bullpen. That's Jordan Montgomery, the $25 million man. And then right now, out of the last 5, you know, Gallen's not going anywhere. Kelly's not going anywhere. Fott's been a godsend for us. You know, he carried us through the postseason last year. He's not going anywhere. And Ryan Nelson has been arguably our best pitcher over the last 2 months. And that leaves our other $1 million guy, 4 years, $80 million. The 2 pitchers that we added to the team are our 2 weakest links in our starting pitching. So it's weird. It's been a weird season, but I'm feeling really good about these 2 games against Texas. I'm feeling really good about playing Milwaukee. I mean, remember what happened in our wild card series against Milwaukee in the postseason? We absolutely kicked their ass. And yeah, they might be in first place in their division, but go ahead and pick up the D-backs, place them in that division, and we'd be kicking ass. We'd be kicking way more ass than we are right now. So I'm not scared of the Brewers. It is weird that we're seeing them so close together at the end of the season. We haven't seen them at all. We're going to play seven games against them when we have 16 left in the season. But and then Chris, you mentioned the Colorado series. I'm looking at the list here, and it looks like to start that series, we're going to have Gallen, Kelly, and Fott in all 3 games. So come on, we should be able to win those. We should easily be able to get a sweep. And that's going to put us in prime position to absolutely nail down one of those wildcard spots.
Chris, long story short, I'm confident in this Arizona Diamondbacks club and that they're going to be able to get one of these 3 wildcard spots. Now, if you're asking if I'm confident that they're going to end up with the top spot, I think there's a lot of different factors that go within that. But Tallman really put out a good chunk of information for the people right there. And if you really think about it, it all comes down to the matchups that you have coming up, right? If you win 3 out of the next or the final 5 series that you have, you should be in a good spot, right? If you think about where the wild card sits, I think, oh man, let's see here. The Braves are 1 game back from that last spot, but then the Cubs are 4.5. So you win 3 out of 5, you beat the Rockies, you beat the Giants, you win one of those series against Milwaukee, you split maybe the 4 game, and then whatever happens with the Padres, at that point, you should basically have your destiny within your hands. And we're talking about going into that final series, not even worrying about if we're going to make the playoffs, but just where we're going to be sitting. My biggest concerns are still, obviously, Tallman said it, with Eduardo Rodriguez. Since he has come into this lineup, he just has not been shut down. He has been struggling, and his numbers show it. And it's still, I mean, if you think about it, over the past 7 games, how has the bullpen really been within situations for locking down games, right? We've won some by multiple runs, so we haven't seen Justin Martinez in a while. And we haven't seen who's our setup, who's our closer, how is that situation going to go? So those are those questions that still kind of linger. But the way that these guys are swinging the damn bat, Chris, you got to have confidence in them, man.
Yeah, no, the Diamondbacks, I think they really embody that underdog mentality. And I think this roster, by and large, being the same as last year, they're going to remember what it took to get there. And with the pieces they added, like Rodriguez, why am I forgetting his name? Grichuk,
Jock Peterson.
Jock Peterson. These pieces they added are really only going to help us even more, get over that hump. Not to mention Jock Peterson also has playoff experience. He's been in this league a long time. He knows what it takes. What does give me a little bit of hope, taking on Milwaukee, is that they've kind of been sliding a little bit too. They've lost 5 of their last 7. Just last month, they lost their star left fielder, Christian Yelich, who just had back surgery. He's not going to be back for the season. Sounds like they might be getting one of their aces back for the playoffs in Brandon Woodruff. But when a guy's coming off the 60-day IL, I mean, we saw what happened with Eduardo Rodriguez. Mike, you mentioned his stats not being very good, and it's been, 5.83 ERA since he's been back. And as you had mentioned, Tallman, Montgomery getting sent to the bullpen. He's got a 6.25 ERA. I feel like he's done a little bit better out of the bullpen, especially having a guy that can go a little bit longer, pitch 3, 4, 5 innings if you need him to. That's something that can benefit you, especially in the playoffs. It is crazy, though. I want to get moving on here eventually, but if you asked me at the beginning of this season which pitcher would have pitched the most innings for the Diamondbacks, I don't think that my guess would have been Brandon Pfaadt. He's pitched 165 innings. He's got 160 strikeouts with a 4.42 ERA. So that's almost a strikeout per inning. This kid is fun. I did want to share one thing with you guys before we move on from the Diamondbacks, because I'm not sure if you saw this. I feel like this kind of went under the radar a little bit. As we talk about the Diamondbacks present, we've also been known to talk about the Diamondbacks future, and I've been highly critical of this individual. Druw Jones was named the Diamondbacks Minor League Player of the Month. Now, I think it's important to note that this is the Diamondbacks Minor League Player of the Month. This isn't the minor league, the MLB Minor League Player of the Month. This isn't the whatever Cactus. I don't even know what the division is for the Aces over there. Is he even on the Aces? I don't even know. But regardless, he might be on the Sod Poodles. I don't know. But regardless, good to see Druw Jones healthy. Hopefully he can rub that off on Jordan Lawler a little bit to get him healthy, get him playing well. But who knows? I mean, Tallman, this might be a conversation we have on the monthly heat check, but you've mentioned it. With Geraldo Perdomo, as young and talented as he is, we might not need a guy like Jordan Lawler. So if we can get him doing something good in the minors and build his value up a little bit more, what might we be able to get in return, especially as we look at possibly needing a first baseman in the near future? Boy, those are some big conversations we're going to have down the line. But fellas, I think baseball is going to be talked about heavy over the next month or so. And another topic that's going to be talked about heavily over the next month through the rest of the year is the Arizona Cardinals. They started their season, as I mentioned, against the Buffalo Bills. They lost by 1 touchdown?
34-28.
34-28. There you go. 6 points. We were very much in that game with the lead at halftime, came out the gate hot, kind of punched the Bills in the mouth. This was a game that I thought was potentially winnable, given the fact that the Bills offense is not, on paper that exciting. There's not really any players aside from Josh Allen that jump out to you as being a world beater, but they got the job done. I mean, I think when you talk about teams like that play at a high caliber, the coaching, the culture they built, they were able to play a more complete game than the Cardinals. But nonetheless, I don't know. There were some things I didn't like, but there was a lot I did like. I think the Cardinals look a lot better than people thought. And even the national media is kind of starting to recognize, we did say they were the 31st worst team in the league. Maybe we're going to reassess that. Mike, do you think the national media picture is going to change for the Cardinals sooner rather than later?
I hope sooner, but you know how you change that? You win some football games, fellas. And you don't not include your number 4 overall pick with only 3 targets within a game, right? There's so many different conversations that can come with it, and I really am interested to hear about what Tallman says in regard to that. But the one thing that I do like, this is a little side note, they talked to Marvin Harrison Jr. about his inclusion within the game plan, and he was frustrated, deservedly so, totally understandable, but he took accountability. He said, I need to work a little bit harder and do better to get open. I love it. I love that from your hopeful future Hall of Famer, somebody who we're hoping is going to be, quote unquote, the next Larry Fitzgerald. We don't want to put too much on him right to start, right? But they're going to figure out ways to get him involved. And I was truly impressed with how this offensive unit started last week in Buffalo. I think Druw got a little bit too cute with some of his runs in the second half and got too scared to throw the football from the wind that was happening in Orchard Park. But besides the fact, you're coming home against the Los Angeles Rams team that is bruised and beaten. And if your guys is, well, okay, I'll say this. If Tallman's predictions come to fruition, this is a W to start for week 2. So then you can start to turn the national media and get this Cardinals team back into favor with where they could possibly be this year, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, no, it's just a few little things to clean up. I mean, maybe if Kyler Murray didn't have that fumble that led to a touchdown shortly thereafter, it could have been a different outcome without a doubt. I mean, Tallman, Mike kind of mentioned the play calling there. Do you think that with a 7-point lead to start the second half, that they were maybe just trying to hold on to that small lead as best they could and somehow stretch it out for 30 minutes? Seems kind of far-fetched, but...
Yeah, I mean, it does. Absolutely. I mean, you go back to just the first half. I mean, the time of possession was crazy. Like, we dominated the football. Absolutely did. But if you look at the plays that we were running, it was, James Conner had the first 10 touches of the football to start the game for the Cardinals. So it was a lot of dink and dunk and run the ball, which we knew. I mean, we called it. This team's going to run the football a lot, but it wasn't a lot of downfield chunk plays. It was, we're going to be meticulous as we go down the field and we're going to eat up the clock. So we saw that in the first half and it worked. We were up 17-3. So that play calling worked. But then in the second half, it was like, it was two different teams, right? It stopped working. And I'm just, the play calling is, it's challenging for me to understand, like, particularly the end of the game where it's 3rd and 10 and you run the football. Granted, I know you're playing for, you're going on it in 4th down. You know that, right? You want it to be 4th and manageable, or maybe you had soft coverage, soft, rush presence. So you were hoping that maybe Connor rips one off, right? But then the decision to throw it downfield to the shortest receiver, it's just, so it was confusing. But the idea of playing against Josh Allen, and then you start, you have that lead. There was no aggressiveness, right? You're playing against Josh Allen, who is very aggressive. He's almost overly aggressive, and he could be very careless with the football, right? He's known for that. They compare him to Brett Favre for a reason. The guy throws the football down the field. He makes big plays. He makes big plays with his feet. So it's, I don't know. They weren't aggressive enough. It was just being too cautious where, you got to go for it. Okay. You got to go for it. And, obviously the last drive when you had the chance to win the game and I didn't understand any of the play call. I really didn't.
Yeah, I think you said it like perfect. Like for me, that 3rd down in the red zone was probably the most confusing for me. I feel like maybe the idea is, yes, this is an obvious pass situation, so we're going to try and catch him sleeping with a run. But the fact that it got absolutely nowhere probably means either your offensive line isn't that good, or the Bills weren't fooled at all. I want to go back to talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. though a little bit, because I appreciate the young man taking responsibility, but I kind of, in a sense, agree with what Lawrence is saying here. It seemed like Kyler was barely looking his way. He only had 3 targets. Now, was that a product of him not getting open so Kyler couldn't throw it to him? Or if he wasn't looking at him, if he was open, he wasn't even trying to get it to him? And you'd think this guy, he's number 1 wide receiver on your depth chart. How are you not drawing up plays specifically designed to allow him to get open for Kyler to be able to target him more? I mean, what is it? Trey McBride had 9 targets by himself. Greg Dortch had 8. Little Greg Dortch had 8 targets. You're telling me Marvin Harrison Jr. couldn't get at least half a dozen targets on the day? I think, like I said, I appreciate him taking accountability, but I think the blame lies in others' hands more than it does his.
Well, I got to jump in on this one, Tom.
Right.
I'm sorry. You'll have your chance. Guys, here's the other factor I think that we kind of forget about this offense as a whole with Druw Petzing calling these offensive plays. He came from a very run dominant team with the Cleveland Browns, right? Where they had that two-headed monster of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, where you could go out, ground and pound, and get 260 yards like there's nothing. They had a solid offensive line. And sometimes I think guys who see a little bit of success within the NFL and then they start at new places, they think to themselves, well, what got me success, right? What got me to this point? Running the football. And don't get me wrong, guys, I love James Conner. He needs to be involved within this offense early and often. But to get 2 total catches for 9 yards from your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, unacceptable. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care what you're talking about. To not be incorporating these guys in different ways. I was, seeing some other things. I mean, how often did we see any movement on the line of scrimmage from these guys? Or did they just go out wide and sit and run their little up and outs, if anything at all? I mean, were we stacking anything differently? From what I saw, I don't think so. And if you're going to have cloud coverage on your number one receiver, you need to move him across the field and get him into different route trees so he has different opportunities instead of just running into that cloud coverage consistently. There is blame to put on Kyler Murray, guys. I get it. I totally understand. But specifically in that second half, when Jonah Williams went down, which is a big, big issue, fellas. That is a huge issue. I'm telling you, Kelvin Beachum is going to be an issue on that right side of the offensive line. Kyler was under duress. He would go into his 3-step, 5-step drop backs, and before he could even get 1 foot forward, he's getting tackled, right? So when you don't have time, when you're running around scrambling, it's hard to look through all your progressions and find your guys. But you got to do a better job on the offensive play calls to move guys around and get them the football. It's almost like, Chris, what I say, when people have been struggling from shooting from the 3-point line, take a few steps in, attack the basket, see the ball go in a couple of times, and then you can take your shots. Then you can take your deep ones, right? Instead of running continuously into cloud coverage. Let's get a little screen pass slant, 4 yards right in the middle of the field, have Marv sit down, then we can get him into some explosive areas. But it didn't happen, and I'm confident that Druw Petzing is going to be able to wrangle it in and start showing some different wrinkles for this offense.
No, but Mike, you nailed it. That was exactly what I was going to bring up, was the Jonah Williams injury, because Beachum, he did Kyler dirty a couple of times there towards the end of that game. And that's going to be a problem. It really is. The depth on our offensive line is not good to begin with. So that injury does hurt. And I think they put him on IR, so he's going to miss at least the minimum necessary games. But I mean, going to that play, okay. And then we were all watching the game right on that last drive where Harrison's he could literally crawl in the end zone for a touchdown there to win the game. And he's got his hands up and Kyler's not looking at all that way. I get it. I saw that. I was watching it in real time, and because on the replay after it, they showed it and I was like, oh my God, come on. But then you got to remember, it's so easy to sit here and blame it on his height, because it was like, oh, well, Kyler didn't see Harrison downfield because he couldn't see over he's too short, right? He can't see, right? I mean, I disagree with that. I mean, that's just such an easy stigma to put on the kid when he's got a history of being able to throw the football down the field, having a strong arm. So it's just not right. If you have big defensive linemen running after you, yeah, it's going to be really hard to read who's going down. Even the best quarterbacks, even the tallest quarterbacks can't find that open read when they're getting ran down like that. But obviously it's really easy to play armchair quarterback and sit there and be upset that he didn't see him. I felt that same way. It's impossible not to, when literally that would have won us the game. But with the Marvin Harrison thing, so that's another huge takeaway. You go, okay, well, from this game, where was he, right? Did he even put on the uniform? Obviously he did. I'm joking. He had 1 catch, but that's your 4th overall pick. Why wasn't he more involved? And I get it. Okay, maybe he wasn't open. The kid's 6'4" tall. he's not going to be open all the time. And in the NFL, the windows are really small. People aren't open in the NFL. You got to throw them open, or you got to throw it up and just give them a 50-50 ball. That's what this team's going to have to do, because you can't go. So if we're sitting here next week talking about this again, and he has 3 targets and 1 catch, that's a problem, right? Because the whole reason why this offense was expected to be different and be better was because we got Marvin Harrison with the 4th overall pick, and I feel bad. There's so much pressure on him, and God bless his soul for coming up saying he needs to get open, but no, he's not going to be able to get open like he did in college. We're going to have to throw the ball at him and get him open, or, just force feed it to him. That's how he's going to be able to be successful and catch the ball. I mean, so say he came out this past game and he caught 10 balls for 150 yards. What happens next week? He's double teamed the entire game and he doesn't get a target because he's not open. No. So this has to be part of the game plan where you're getting the ball to Harrison, and there's no questions asked. That has to happen. So it was concerning. What's crazy is that game was ours to win without him even really doing anything. And he was our 4th overall pick, and he's supposed to change our offense. So I don't know that he's 6 foot 4 inches tall. I mean, what's the average height of a defensive back? 6 foot, maybe. I mean, this guy's got an advantage on every play, regardless if they're standing shoulder to shoulder. When you throw it, him and the defensive back, he's got an advantage. So they need to get the ball to Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, and I think this is something that he and the Cardinals are just going to have to come to terms with, is the fact that when the team they're playing, the defense is looking at how they're going to defend the Arizona Cardinals. Marvin Harrison Jr. is one who's going to be circled every single time. And it's something that every star wide receiver in this league has to deal with. Ask Jamar Chase, ask Tyreek Hill, ask Justin Jefferson. Do they only get 3 targets in a game? Hell no. They get the lion's share of the targets, and they find ways to get open. So I will say I'm not completely absolving Marvin Harrison Jr. If he truly was struggling to get open and create that separation for himself, then he will have to find ways to overcome that. But I like that. I feel like we're all kind of on the same page as far as not making excuses for that last play. A lot of Cardinals fans were wanting them to call defensive pass interference. And I think when you're relying on getting bailed out by the officials, you're already in a bad spot. So there are much better ways that we could have approached that. And so I hope that they use the knowledge they obtained in week 1 to carry it into week 2, where we will be making our home debut against the Los Angeles Rams, who recently lost. Was it Puka Nacua is going to be out for 4 or 5 weeks?
So they placed Puka on the injured reserve, and Sean McVay talked with the media today, and he said it was a special injury. So unless you guys have heard anything else, I have no idea what it is. But yeah, no Puka. So it's the Cooper Kupp show once again. I mean, tell me, we've heard that story plenty of times.
He broke his dick.
Now, Christopher.
Oh, sorry, Tom. I thought Tallman was going to jump in there. I know he loves the...
Oh, my bad. No, I don't think that's the injury he sustained, Chris. Yeah, so the injuries for the Rams, I must have known something when I made that prediction, right? That the Cardinals were going to win this game. But their offensive line is just, it doesn't exist. I mean, they lose 3 of their 5 starters?
It's absolutely decimated. Steve Avila is on injury reserve, Joe Notenboom, and then they got Kevin Dotson and Rob Havenstein that are questionable right now. So yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So with this game coming up, you just got to think, okay, can the Cardinals pass rush get something happening against this beat up offensive line? And it seems like we can. And if we could put pressure on Stafford, I mean, that's not even sack him, just pressure him. That's a huge impact on the football game. And then if you go and ask Las Vegas right now, it's almost an even money line, So, we're getting the Rams right now at the perfect time. And there's no doubt about it that the Cardinals can win this football game. And we need it, man. We need to win at home. We need a division win so bad. And this would be just the perfect time to capitalize on them when they're down. Not that I'm afraid of them, but, this is the perfect time. A win's a win. You can't be upset about it. You got to go in and we got to hopefully we can get some pressure on Stafford, and then we can score some points to win the game.
No, I totally agree. This game is not unwinnable at all. I mean, you can even see the sports books giving the Cardinals some love here with the -1. They're technically the favorites right now on ESPN Bet to win this. Looks like they're thinking it's going to be a shootout. The over set at 48.5. I don't know about that. Maybe I'd bet the under. This isn't betting advice. I'm just saying maybe I would shy away from that. Tallman is the one we go to for the betting advice. We'll see if we get a Tallman ticket this week. Apparently he has to be in some tropical destination for him to bust out the camera and actually film a bet. But guys, I don't know. I think it's good. I mean, not good that the guys are injured, but good for the Cardinals that they're not going to be playing. Obviously, Puka Nacua broke out last season as one of their top wide receivers, as Cooper Kupp kind of took a step back, but even he came into his own, had a pretty good week last week. The one player that does kind of scare me a little bit coming here to State Farm Stadium is Kyren Williams. I don't know if you guys remember week 12 last year where he had 204 yards of offense and 2 touchdowns, absolutely gashing the Cardinals at every avenue. I think it was like 140, 150 on the ground, the rest coming through the air. Makes me a little bit nervous. Last week, Matthew Stafford did throw 49 passes, completed 34 of them for 317 yards. So the secondary is going to have a lot of work to do. It's kind of, I don't know, Mike, could it be kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't? If you try and guard Kyren Williams too heavy, they throw it over top you. If you try and sit back, they just run all over you. How do you plan for this?
I think this week you're going to have to try and stack the box, fellas. I mean, what we know about this Arizona Cardinals defensive unit going back to last year is they are one of the worst run defensive teams in the league. And it showed last week. In our recap, I did say James Cook, he did only have a 3.7 yard average, but they were getting gashed way too early, too often. If you're working with shorter downs and distances, shorter fields, and you can't stop the run, you're in a heap load of trouble. The biggest thing, fellas, is Tallman touched it. What is this pass rush going to be able to do? I know you said, Tallman, hopefully we can get just general pressure on Matthew Stafford. I think I heard a stat, though. He was under duress 46% of his dropbacks last week, and he still threw for over 300 yards. And Cooper Kupp had 14 receptions. We know Cooper Kupp is just a guy that we hate with a fiery passion when it comes to Arizona Cardinals fan. We've seen him do it to us plenty of times. So if they get on the same page and they're just dinking and dunking, and Matthew Stafford is having plenty of time down the field, and we can't stop the run, it's going to be a long day. I'm telling you. But this is still one of those matchups, I think, early in the season. You're still trying to figure out who are your run stoppers. How do you load the box properly to make sure that you're shutting down offensive weapons on the outside as well? This Arizona Cardinals team is going to have to put up some points to win this game. That's how I feel. So I know you said bet the under, Chris. I don't know. It might be right on that line. I think that points are going to be flowing in this game, especially if the Cardinals are going to do what we hope they do and start feeding our guy Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, okay. Tallman, you think breakout Marvin Harrison bounce back 100+ yard game is coming down the pipe?
No. I don't think Harrison gets 100 yards. I do got to agree with Mike, though, because, I mean, so if you would have asked me that question, I would have said, we don't do anything to stop them. We just score more points than them. We know what this defense was. You know, like the preseason coming into this season, I get it. It's only 1 week, right? Or it's only week 1. It's the week of overreactions right now, and we're doing it maybe. But this coming into this season, what we did week 1 was exactly what we expected. Our offense was going to have some pop, and our defense wasn't going to be able to stop anybody. So with this game, I mean, that's great. That was a crazy stat that you said, Mike, about Stafford. And I mean, I got love for Stafford, what he went through in Detroit. He's definitely a Hall of Famer in my book. He's a great quarterback, right?
What he's going through at home. Sorry.
A true story. Somebody had to say it.
Yeah, there you go. But he's a hell of a quarterback, right? So the one way we're going to win this game is score points. The only possible way we can stop them, because I don't think our secondary can be trusted very much. And then you already mentioned, Mike, stopping the run's not great, is getting pressure on him when Stafford's dropping back. Those are going to be the two most important things. And I mean, I do agree with Mike, though. I mean, 48.5. I don't know. I mean, I guess what the line was lower last week with that Buffalo game, I think, the total point line, or it might have been right about the same. But I mean, I think this Cardinals team it's just with that defense, man. You know, it's any of these games that are within our reach, it's going to be a shootout.
It's going to have to be, and that could be exciting. Definitely a lot of opportunity if that is the case to have some of these guys get involved. Continue to feed Trey McBride, get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved some more, get James Conner running the football, really keep James Conner healthy at all costs. With the Rams defense, though, I am curious how long it's going to be until Sean McVay gives Aaron Donald a call to come back out of retirement and join the Rams. But hopefully that's not something we have to worry about. Just when you thought we were done, those conversations are getting stirred back up again. But guys, overall, pretty optimistic here. None of us in our season predictions, none of us had a win against the Bills, right?
Yeah, I picked a loss for sure.
I had them beating the Bills, Christopher.
Oh no,
Michael.
Did you
I'm
just
sorry,
bring that
Mike.
up? Okay, hold on. Did you actually know that I had picked that, or were you just trying to put it out there and be like, "Oh,
I didn't because I mean I think I can't remember, but I think I had at least expressed that I didn't think the Bills were going to be as strong this season as they have in years past, and it was a close game, but I still picked the loss. But Mike, no, there wasn't any shade.
I will say this. I did go back and watch both of that. Tallman, you were very heavy about Josh Allen just being the guy, being a difference maker. Chris, you were the same as well, but you also had major concerns about the defense. So I'd give the edge on what actually happened that week to you, Chris. Tallman did say it was going to be a close game. And hell, at the end of the day, the Arizona Cardinals have the football on the 32-yard line going for a win. I'll take a small victory in that. How about that?
Man, yeah, small victory. I think honestly, like with the expectations being so low for the Cardinals, if we're close in every single game this year, if we're competitive in every game this year, I'll take the moral victories. I'll take the moral victories all day, and we'll win the moral victory Super Bowl. We won't win the actual Super Bowl, but if we have the most moral victories out of any other team, that'll give me hope going forward. Mike,
I don't want moral victories this year. I want damn wins, Chris.
Hey, I'm just saying, I'll take a moral victory over a loss.
We have 2 seasons.
Well, I guess the moral victory is a loss at the end of the day.
We have 2 seasons of lots of losses.
We can't. We got to win football games.
Time to get some wins this year.
There's no excuse.
Yeah, no, you're right. So we'll see. We'll see this Sunday afternoon slot here at home taking on the Rams. I'll be watching, that's for sure. But guys, one more topic we had on the docket, and that is your Arizona State Sun Devils. They started their first 2 games at home. They beat Wyoming 48-7 very convincingly. They beat SEC Mississippi State 30-23. Little shaky there towards the end, but still pulled it out. Our boy Cam Scadaboo winning all-purpose player of the week with 33 carries and 262 yards on the ground. He also had 35 yards through the air. No touchdowns. I think it's funny. In contrast, our quarterback, Sam Levitt, only threw 20 passes, completed 10 of them, 69 passing yards, and he had 68 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns from the quarterback. So interesting. Makes me a little bit nervous that we're going to rely so much on the ground game. But hey, if that's your strength, if that's your bread and butter, you stick to it. I really like Carlos Brooks as well, what he's able to bring to the table with that change of pace. I expect that he might get some more carries. As long as Cam Scadaboo can stay healthy, though, that's your bell cow. But Mike, man, before we get too much into the nitty gritty, how dope are these jerseys, dude?
I love it, man. You guys know where my allegiances are. As I go further and further within my life, you know where my stance is, though, on the state of Arizona. I support big time. These are one of the cleanest jerseys that I've seen. As far as Arizona State, man, I've always been a sucker for that maroon. But, man, the all yellow just pops with that white helmet. It was beautiful. What a game to debut it, too, for your first win against an SEC opponent. That was huge, man.
No, honestly, couldn't have been better. And it was nationally broadcast on ESPN as well. I even saw before the game, these jerseys were getting hyped up even outside of Arizona, where people were like, these are probably contender for sickest jersey of the year so far. I know there's a lot of schools that have big time money, and a lot of, like, I think Oregon put themselves on the map one year. They had a different jersey combination every single week. But now that ASU's had that Adidas, partnership going the past couple of years, we're right there with them, where I think we're going to start to see dope jerseys like this. I love the Sparky on the helmet too. I mean, obviously Pitchfork is iconic, but man, that Sparky is ill. Tom, and I know we're gushing over here. Do you share our sentiment as far as these jerseys
I
go?
do, yes. And my big point, you just mentioned it, the helmet with the Sparky on it. It's sharp. It's sharp. No, I'm a big fan for sure.
Yeah, so I hope they bust these out again throughout the season. We'll see. Maybe they even have another one in the chamber that's going to blow us away even more, or some combination. But if they at least wear that helmet again, I'll be happy. But again, they have a matchup coming up tomorrow, a rare Thursday game. This Thursday, September 12th, they're going to be taking on Texas State in Texas. I think that school is down near San Antonio, if I'm not mistaken. They're in like the Suncoast Conference, something like that. They're also 2-0. Is that a Division II team, or they're just like a Division I, like lower tier? Am I right? We need where are Ben and Stephen Miller when you need them, guys? If you missed it, about 4 weeks ago, I sat down with Ben and Stephen Miller, and we went through every single game of the ASU season. We talked about the upcoming season, what's going on. Those guys have a lot of insight. They're both graduates of Arizona State. They attended a lot of football games and continue to follow them very closely. So throughout this ASU season, we'll be sure to have those guys on some more so they can share our insight. But guys, Mike, I guess I'll ask you first.
I will say I did it. I did the research, Chris.
I was going to say, so did I.
Sunbelt is Division 1A football. So,
okay.
I mean, you look at the lines, man. It's supposed to be a close game, but I won't jump in. Go for it.
No. I was just pretty much just kind of wrapping up to kind of ask you, I guess, Mike, how awesome would it be if they can start this season 3-0 and get a big win? Are we talking about knocking on the door of potentially seeing this Arizona State team ranked in the top 25?
Oof. I don't know. I mean, winning against the SEC is always good. The way that they started the season as well, with that absolute whomping of Wyoming, holding them to 118 total yards. I mean, you got to love it. I still think it's so crazy too. Scatterboo, 33 carries, 262 yards, no touchdowns. But they literally said, hey, buddy, you're our bell cow. Go finish the game for us. And he did that exactly. So if they continue and Sam Leavitt continues to kind of hold his own and work within the game script, they could be knocking on the door, Chris. But I mean, if you truly look at where their strength of schedule is, I don't have that number. I think it's still going to be an uphill climb. But once those Big 12 games start coming in, and if they can get some surprising wins in there, I mean, nothing's off the table, man.
No, I don't think so. I mean, and you did mention the Texas State. The line is close. It's -1.5 for ASU right now. Just last week, they're coming off a huge win against UT San Antonio. Their quarterback had 309 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Their running back had 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. So they got some weapons. They're a very good team as well. Lawrence says Texas State is very good. Should be a great game. Awesome for a Thursday night matchup. Again, nationally televised. This one's going to be on ESPN as well. I think tomorrow, guys, it starts at 4:30 actually. So this game will be finished by the time VSP softball takes the field. So maybe I'll be able to watch a little bit of it as I get ready, and then potentially listen to the rest of it on the radio as me and Tallman drive all the way out to Tempe from here in the deep east, the deep southeast valley. But yeah, super excited for ASU this season. I mean, Tallman, do you have anything else you want to say about ASU in particular?
I mean, so the first 2 games have been great, right? And then against Mississippi State, didn't they come out pretty hot? Because they were leading that game pretty well for a minute.
It was 27-3 at halftime.
Yeah. So them being ranked, I would pump the brakes here. I was a little. I mean, obviously, I know nothing about Texas State, but I was shocked about how close that line is. So, I'd be careful on expectations because we got some hard games. I mean, just looking at the schedule, man. I mean, it's not going to be a bunch of crazy outputs by the Devils here once we get some good competitors. But I did watch some of the game. I watched the first quarter of the Mississippi State game. So it was great watching ASU. It's always fun to watch, and it's even more exciting when the team's doing good. And I mean, if you look good, you play good, right? That's what the uniforms are for.
Hey, you might be onto something there. Look good, feel good, play good, win games. Yeah, only
you guys are pulling a Dion right now. Come on, don't put ASU with Colorado right now.
Oh, come on. Dion's not the first person to say that. Let's be real. No, but you're right. I mean, you can't take any Texas school lightly. Texas football is Texas football. Low tone Capone with the fire emojis. I don't know if that's in reference to the jerseys or ASU in general. Both apply, very applicable. But forks up, baby. I'm going to be rooting tomorrow. 3-0 start would be absolutely amazing. I've been texting Ben Miller like, we're so back. ASU football. He's super high on him. Mike, what you got?
Is he going to that game? Because he said this was going to be a chance for him to go to that game, right? Because he's not too far out from there. It's from San Marcos.
I think he's a little bit further than because he's in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I think it might be the equivalent of like it might not be too bad. It might be like the equivalent of driving down to Tucson. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick.
It would have been a perfect opportunity for him to introduce his newborn baby to Arizona State football. Ben, get on it if you don't already have tickets, my friend. Come on now.
Yeah, he should. I mean, it's only a 3-hour and 23-minute drive from Dallas. So
okay, that's not that's not really that close.
No. He might have to pull like an overnight or something if he plans on doing that. And on a Thursday, it could be a tough proposition, but he'll be there in spirit. He'll be closer than any of us, that's for sure. Let's see, what does Low Tone Cone say? Texas State really feeling themselves on the chat boards. Yeah, I'd imagine they are. This would be a big win for them. Obviously, a power comp. I guess it's not Power 5 conference anymore. It was Power 4 conference, Power 3.5 conference now. College football is looking interesting. I am really excited though to see how the playoff goes this year with them expanding it out. I think that's going to open the door for a lot of, interesting storylines down the stretch where it might not just be obviously it's not just going to be the top 4 teams, but you could see like a 10 seed sneak in and make it to the national championship game. It's all about who stays healthy and gets hot at the right time, like in any sport. But fellas, that's pretty much, I mean, I guess all that we have for this Wednesday evening, this edition of the Heat Check Podcast Live. Mike, do you have anything else for the people before we get out of here?
So I want you guys to take a trip down memory lane with me really fast. This is a story, honestly, that I haven't thought about in so long. And obviously it pertains to the day of September 11th in 2001, man, 23 years ago. I was 11 years old. That day, I was supposed to be going to the Diamondbacks game with my good friend, longtime friend, Danny. Shout out, Dan, if you're watching. And then the towers were hit and life changed as we know it. So it's crazy to come full circle 23 years later to be at the ballpark on the day that I was supposed to as a young kid, as a young Mr. Benjamin, and enjoy the Diamondbacks put a whooping to the World Series champions. Man, I can't wait to see how this Diamondbacks team competes and finishes out this season. Can't wait for the Los Angeles Rams to come to State Farm Stadium. Get our guys going on a nice little homestand, man. 3 in a row for the Arizona Cardinals. And let's see what ASU can do tomorrow, man. Fellas, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you, Mike. Love having you on here. Love doing this show with you. Plenty to look forward to in the state of Arizona. There's plenty of reasons to be down, but Mike, you always say not too high, not too low. We just got to keep it nice and even here as being Arizona sports fans. Tallman, you got anything else, man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an amazing story that Mr. Benjamin had to share with us, but I will say, Mike, it was great being at the ballpark with you. I'm glad we both made it there. But yeah, I mean, this is a crazy day. in the history of our country. And, you know, it makes you grateful, makes you proud to be an American. So, but yeah, other than that, I mean, I could just echo what Mike said. I mean, let's see a Cardinals win. You know, let's talk about a win. It feels like it's been a while.
It's much needed, especially the more wins we can get early in the season for the Cardinals, the better it's going to be. So I'm very excited for tomorrow with ASU. I'm excited for Sunday with the Cardinals, and to see what the Diamondbacks do in these last 4 or 5 series of the season, hoping they finish strong. But you guys know that we're going to keep you updated. I already did the plugs. You know where to find us. And if you've stuck around this long, I thank you so much. Shout out Lawrence. Shout out Low Tone Capone for joining us here in the chat. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're watching back on the replay. You can also like and subscribe. You can leave comments for us to leave to get back to later. We always come back and answer all of your comments, as it's a pretty intimate setting here. I don't know if you guys noticed this. We only have 250 subscribers. We're trying to get those numbers up. So tell your friends, tell your enemies, make sure they're liking and subscribing and keeping up with what we're doing here at Valley Sports Plug. But for Mr. Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.